Hi, this is Tasty McDole. I'm here at Russian River Brewing Company. Today's my brew day here. I'm brewing on the brewing system here. We're doing the Pro-Am beer for the 2009 Great American Beer Festival. And today we'll be brewing the Janet's Brown Ale. It's a recipe that a lot of people are familiar with of mine. And we'll be trying that on the puck system here at the brewery.
So I chose Tasty, or Mike as his real name is. I still can't call you Tasty.
Well, you're using that on one of your signs here. Right?
So anyways, the story goes back to GABF 2008 when Mike and I talked about doing the Pro-Am beer, and he had a beautiful pale ale that was, as he called it, the Pliny Light. So he took the homebrew version of Pliny the Elder and turned it into a pale ale recipe, and an absolutely gorgeous beer. We had the plan, the date to do it, and unfortunately we had brewed a 100% Brettanomyces beer in what happens to be the same fermenter that we're brewing the Pro-Am beer this year in, and 100% Brett beer stuck. So it sat for a good week before it started fermenting, which is a little bit dicey in and of itself. And I hated to have to make that call to Mike and tell him that, that the tank's not going to be open soon enough, and I can't do the Pro-Am beer. And in a stroke of luck and camaraderie amongst home brewers and professional brewers, Jamil gave up his spot at 21st Amendment, and Mike went down and brewed with Sean Sullivan at 21A and brewed what ended up being called Tasty. And it was a tasty beer. I was lucky enough to be at 21A when it was on tap, and it really was a beautiful pale ale. Fast forward to this year, and it was only natural that I call Mike again and say, let's do the Pro-Am again. But being that the pale ale had already been done, the beer that they called Tasty, it was time to try something else. And I said to Mike, whatever you want, you choose. It's your call, and you went with the beer that that we chose, the Janet's Brown Ale. Is that the right name?
That's the right name.
All right, good. Why is it called that?
It's after my late wife. It's one of her favorite.
That's sweet. That's a nice story. So, what I'm most happy about this, and Mike and I had a conversation about this earlier, is that it really is a style of beer that we don't brew. It's a bigger, darker beer with a nice hop character. Obviously, we're known for making big hoppy beers, but usually they're on the lighter color scale and more in the IPA realm. So it's really cool to kind of get us as professional brewers to think outside the box and do something a little bit different than what we're used to.
Tell us about the beer then. You got to choose what recipe to brew.
Right. Well, it was a pretty easy choice. Last month, my Imperial American Brown, which is Janet's Brown Ale brewed at a higher gravity, took first place in the second round of the National Home Brew Competition. So it was an easy choice. The beer scored exceptionally well in the first round, and it was no surprise to a lot of people that it placed first in the second round. So that was an easy choice. And it's probably, as my recipes go, it's probably the most often copied, often brewed by home brewers.
Okay.
A lot of people know the beer.
So what did you have to do different to take it from a homebrew to Vinnie's system?
Well, not too much. The only thing I did was send Vinnie the recipe. He ran it up in Pro Mash like I would have done.
Yeah.
And,
Actually, I used Pro Mash to bump it up. I thought it was a good. We don't normally use Pro Mash, but I thought it was a good chance to use it because it would use a lot of the same variables and would be kind of set. The recipe scaling would work. I'd say the biggest thing was just getting the two-row, the base malt to the right level so that we hit the gravity, at least be close in gravity. One of the things is our two-row right now has phenomenal extract, and then you also add in the fact that a bigger system like we have, a commercial system compared to a homebrew system, is going to have a much better extract as well and better utilization. So just trying to get that interplay to make it work is a pretty big deal. And everything turned out great today. We hit the mash temperature was definitely higher than we ever do. at our brewery, and that was on purpose for Mike's recipe, so that the beer has a lot of body, has a higher finishing gravity to give you a lot of mouthfeel, and then also getting the mash temperature right was the first thing that I was most worried about, and then secondly, just hitting the gravity is super important. And Mike and Eric and Guy that brewed today here at our brew pub, they got everything. It was perfect. I had nothing to do with it. I'll admit it. I was at the production brewery running the centrifuge all day. I showed up in time for a beer.
All right, Mike, so what do you think? Is it going to turn into Janet's Brown?
Yeah, it's going to be a really good example of it. Like Vinny says, we hit all the numbers, and it really makes a difference. That's what I appreciate about the home brewing that I do. I can repeat the process, and I can actually, if I want it to be mashed at a temperature, I can make that happen. And it was just amazingly easy for that to happen here today. That just went so well. Mostly because, Eric and Guy, they know their brew system. They knew that to get in at 154, you had to have a strike temperature 164, 165. Vinny knew that too. He had it down on the recipe sheet. And, a little concerned about, well, what's our final gravity going to be? So we took what they call here a 5 o'clock gravity, which is 60-minute gravity. And then based on that, they looked at it and said, well, looks like we're going to come in just a little bit low. So I said, well, I think we had like a 45-pound sugar addition to the beer. It's like a 50-pound sack. So I said, well, let's put the whole sack in. And then Eric said, and then he kind of raised the boil level during the first 30 minutes to kind of drive it down a little bit as well. So it's all about people knowing their recipe, knowing their equipment, and making beer. That's the beauty of the whole thing. It's this partnership that occurred today between me and people that I've never really brewed beer with before, but we're all pushing in the same direction.
Where will this beer be besides GABF for the Pro-Am competition?
Well, of course, here at the pub, our brew pub here in Santa Rosa will have the Janet's on tap, and then I know we'll go into the East Bay at EJ Fair per Mike's request.
Great.
And kind of synonymous with Russian River is Toronado, so we'll look for it there. But other than that, I'd like to keep most of it here. But if there's anywhere else that Mike wants me to deliver it to, it's his beer. So, but that's it'll be pretty limited, and of course it'll be on tap at the Great American Beer Festival at the Pro-Am booth. I'm going to sneak in a bigger keg.
So, Tasty, I assume since you just got the go-ahead that a keg will be delivered to 130 Carriage Lane in Pacheco, California,
Yeah, we can probably get something in there.
where the Brewing Network is.
I'll come over with some carnies and we'll get some in there for you.
Let's see, is that jail?
Yeah, might be. All right, guys, good luck in the Pro-Am.
Cheers. Thanks. Good to see you.